The story begins with an evil kingpin sitting down for a meeting with his associates, reminding them that they have been in the temp business for over 15 years. You can already tell that this is a man who has very little regard for other human beings, as he has men serving as chairs for his associates to sit on, and he even uses one of their hands as an ashtray. Today marks a significant occasion for their shady operation, so they decide to celebrate. A glass of wine is poured by a guy with glasses and then passed over to a tester to take a sip first and confirm there is no poison before the kingpin drinks it. The tester takes a sip and gives the all clear, saying the drink is clean. With that, the kingpin pours himself a glass and takes a sip. But almost immediately after that single sip, he begins to collapse, making it clear that the drink was in fact poisoned. The others immediately grab the tester, assuming he is the one behind it, but it was actually the work of the guy who poured the drink in the first place, Hikaru Jiro. With that handled, Jiro changes back into his regular clothes and heads home. But on the way he spots a beautiful blonde girl kissing a man inside his car. Jiro gets so caught up watching them that he walks straight into a wall. Later that night, after Jiro gets home, where he settles in with some ice cream, while his younger sister Akari asks him how he managed to slip the poison past the poison tester. Jiro explains that all he did was slowly build up an immunity in the tester over time. He spent 3 months quietly adding small doses of poison to the tester's food until his body was able to withstand a lethal amount. Akari hears this and says that must have been an enormous amount of effort, and Jiro admits it definitely was. Nobody would ever expect someone to go to such ridiculous lengths, and that is exactly why they are able to stay in the hitman business. That aside, Akari asks Jiro whether he has given any thought to getting married, and Jiro nearly chokes on his ice cream at the question. Jiro is honestly convinced he has very little hope of ever getting married, especially since he barely comes into contact with women in this line of work. He recalls that their grandmother wants one of them to take over as the new head of the Poison clan, and when he told her he could not because he was single, she went ahead and matched him up with a complete stranger from a branch family and nearly pushed him into getting married on the spot. Jiro knows this means that if he stays single, the line of Poison masters will end with him. Akari acknowledges that, adding that it is not as if she can really picture girls chasing after him anyway. Jiro then pulls out his phone and sees a message from the Bugmaster, so he heads out to grab a bite with him. They make small talk for a while and Jiro brings up how he plans on spending the rest of his life as a single man. But that is when the Bugmaster mentions that he is actually thinking about getting married soon to a quiet and sweet girl he met not too long ago. Jiro genuinely finds this surprising because he always assumed the Bugmaster would end up growing old alone. That aside, the Bugmaster makes a point of reminding Jiro that just because he is getting married does not change the fact that they are still good friends. With that said, the Bugmaster activates his bug legs and begins to leave, but Jiro calls him back at the last second and tells him that he has always looked at marriage as something negative. But after hearing him talk about it tonight, he is starting to think it might not be so bad after all. The next day, Jiro heads to a new job, and on the way there, the man who hired him starts talking about the girls who work at his office, but Jiro just brushes it off and tells him to keep his eyes on what they came there to do. That aside, his man goes on to introduce Jiro to the next criminal on the list that needs to be taken out, a woman named May, a cold-hearted marriage swindler who has been causing a great deal of trouble. He asks Jiro to handle her. Jiro wastes no time and injects her with a serum, telling her she is about to experience severe nerve paralysis that will work its way up toward the brain. He tells her that within seconds she is going to be in agony, feeling as though she is being torn apart from the inside. But rather than being frightened by this, May just starts flirting with Jiro. Jiro does not take the bait and figures it is nothing more than a last-ditch attempt to save herself. May admits that she did con people, but explains that she mainly did it to pay for treatment for her younger brother who is very sick. She says she grabbed every opportunity she could find and took on jobs she could never tell a single person about. But even that was never enough. She coughs up some blood as the poison begins to take hold, and adds that if she is going to die with someone who looks just like the man she loves watching over her, then she supposes that is good enough for her. She looks Jiro straight in the eyes and asks him to at least tell her his name before it is over. Jiro feels a slight warmth rise to his face as he quietly tells her. Meanwhile, the man watches Jiro work through a screen, and the girls around start to wonder why it is taking him so long, questioning whether he is actually as good as people say. But the man just tells them to relax because he comes from the Jiro family, one of the oldest and most respected names in the assassination business, so he has no doubt he will get the job done. Back with Jiro, he finds himself genuinely wondering whether Mei actually has real feelings for him, but that is when Akari suddenly calls and tells him that she is moving back to the main house because she has decided to help produce the next heir to the Jiro family and the new poison master. One of the branch family members is also looking for a partner, so she has decided to simply marry him. Jiro cuts her off and tells her she does not have to go that far, but Akari reminds him that their grandmother is completely serious about getting an heir, and even said that if Akari refuses, she will strip away her freedom and force the matter. So Akari would rather do things her own way and on her own terms. Jiro asks what will happen to her girlfriend, and Akari simply says she is going to have to end things with her. Jiro tells her to hold on and not do anything just yet. He walks back over to Mei and asks her to marry him. He explains that in order to become the head of the Poison clan, he needs to be married, and since she at least has feelings for him, he wants it to be her. He also mentions that he would be able to help with her brother's illness on top of that. Mei looks up at him with a bright expression that briefly makes Jiro smile, but then her face goes completely cold as she tells him there is absolutely no way she would ever agree to that. She explains that she knew she was going to die anyway, so she just wanted to take one last shot at something for the fun of it, and now she can go in peace. She then tells him that other people fall in love and get married because they are genuinely right for each other, but in his case, he is never going to be a good match for someone he could end at any moment without a second thought. She tells him that if he ever wants to be a good match for someone, he has to start by being honest about how he really feels, because a marriage built only for inheritance will never last. Jiro hears this and finally opens up. He tells her that even though he is meant to be a cold-blooded assassin, he still wants a quiet life with someone he loves. He wants someone who will love him for who he is and truly care about his feelings. But he believes that will never happen because he never went to a normal school and never had the chance to meet any girls. He has lived his whole life as a poison master, and he was trained to never open his heart to anyone. Mei starts to laugh when she hears this because he just shared his feelings with her even though they only just met. She tells him it is not as hard as he thinks. All he needs to do is meet different kinds of people, and sooner or later he will find the right one. Then she tells him to just finish the job. As she says this, she begins to cry, realizing that her little brother's medical bills will never be paid now. Suddenly, the handler arrives with his group and tells Jiro to stop wasting time and kill Mei already. But Jiro refuses. He says he is not going to kill her because he needs her. He believes that Mei must be skilled at bringing people together if she was chosen to marry into their group, so he wants to hire her for that. He promises that he will do everything he can to keep her and her little brother alive, and in return, he wants her to help him find someone to marry. Mei is surprised and a bit excited when she hears this, because no one has ever said something like that to her before, but a bullet suddenly flies past her face. The handler says he is disappointed in Jiro, and now he has no choice but to kill him. He adds that killing the heir of the poison master will push them to the top of their field. Jiro says that the handler and his group ruin people's lives by stealing jobs from ordinary people and then blackmailing them with what they find. Jiro explains that he only kills bad people without guilt, so that means they all qualify. Jiro then injects himself with one of his serums and it affects his body right away. His eyes turn green and he puts on a gas mask. The handler and his group start shooting at him without holding back, but when the bullets stop, both Jiro and Mei are gone. The handler looks up and sees them on the ceiling, but by then it is already too late. In the next moment, all of his men are on the ground, weak and unable to stand, because Jiro has poisoned them. Mei is shocked to see how skilled Jiro really is, because she thought he was just talking before. Jiro tells her that he only used his 300 torments of hell poison, so they will not die, but the pain and fear should be enough to keep them from doing this kind of work again. After that, Jiro calls Akari and tells her not to break up with her girlfriend, because he is going to get married and take over as the new head of the Poison clan. Akari is happy to hear this. At that moment, the handler tries to escape. However, he runs straight into a one-way mirror and gets stuck. Jiro then throws a poison needle into his back, giving him the same effect as the others and stopping him from getting away. After that, they leave the building and get ready to enter a taxi. quickly. Mei still cannot move because she is in the chair, so she asks Jiro to carry her. Jiro starts to panic right away because he has never touched a girl outside of work. Mei tells him to relax, then reveals that she is actually a guy. This shocks Jiro and leaves him speechless. They go to a hotel where Jiro confirms that Mei is really a guy. He asks why Mei wears women's clothes. Mei explains that he dresses as a woman when he tricks men, and dresses as a man when he tricks women. He says it is more fun to play both sides. Mei then promises Jiro that by the time he is done helping him, he will be able to attract both men and women. Mei tells Jiro that he has already signed him up for a matchmaking event and asks him to fill in his details. The next day, they attend the event and notice that there are far more men than women. To fix this, Mei dresses as a woman and draws attention from many of the men, which reduces the number of rivals Jiro has to deal with. Jiro learns that first impressions matter a lot, so Mei decides they need to find his natural charm and bring it out. When Jiro talks to his first girl, he immediately tells her that he makes millions of dollars every year. This causes her to lose interest and reject him. When he tells Mei what happened, Mei is not surprised. He explains that leading with money only makes him look arrogant. Mei tells Jiro to smile more next time. When Jiro tries this with another group of girls, his smile looks forced and uncomfortable, and they all reject him. By the end of the day, Jiro becomes frustrated because everything went worse than he expected. Mei then shows Jiro a dating app that he signed him up for and tells him he already has a date. Later, during the date, Jiro struggles to eat because he was trained as a poison master to never eat food he did not prepare himself. By the time he finally gathers the courage to take a bite, his date has already left. After all this, they decide to stop for the day and try again tomorrow. As Mei turns to go home, a jeep suddenly drives past, and someone pulls him inside before speeding away. Jiro sees this and runs after the car, but he cannot catch up. Inside the car, the man asks Mei what he did to his older brother, the handler from earlier, and why he suddenly left the family cleaning services. Mei says he knows nothing about it, but the man does not believe him. He shoots a lead pellet at Mei from his mouth, which hits his face and causes pain. Mei still denies any knowledge. The man prepares to fire again. At that moment, the driver sees Jiro standing in the middle of the road. They decide not to stop and try to run him over. Just before the car hits him, Jiro jumps over it and strikes it with a special thermo poison. The attack is strong enough to split the moving car into two parts. Jiro chases the broken car and catches up. As Mei's side of the car begins to fall off a bridge, Jiro reaches him just in time and pulls him to safety, while the others fall into the water below. As Jiro holds Mei, he returns the phone Mei dropped earlier and thanks him for the day. He says that because of Mei, he was able to meet many girls in one day. He admits that he is not good at this, but he still wants Mei's help. Mei realizes that Jiro did not even get a single contact from the event, so he asks for Jiro's number. Mei becomes Jiro's first real friend, even though he doubts he will make many more. As they walk back together, Mei looks at Jiro and feels drawn to him. In that moment, he understands that this is Jiro's true charm. The next day, Mei shows Jiro a flyer and tells him to meet her the following afternoon at the Avocado Oceanic Art Gallery. Jiro has absolutely no idea how an art gallery on a cruise ship has anything to do with helping him find his charm, but Mei just tells him to trust the process and go along with it. Then the next day, Mei meets up with Jiro at the entrance to the cruise ship and Jiro is genuinely stunned by how beautiful she looks. Shortly after, the two of them step inside the art gallery and Jiro is immediately caught off guard by just how breathtaking the scenery inside is, though he still cannot figure out why Mei brought him here of all places. Mei then explains that today is going to serve as his rehearsal for what a first date should actually look and feel like, with her playing the role of his date. She points out that even if Jiro were to somehow manage to get a girl's number and set up a real date, the way he carries himself right now would make the whole thing go terribly, so she thinks it is far better to go in having practiced and prepared properly. Their mock date gets underway and Mei starts deducting points from Jiro every time he comes across as either too stiff or too awkward in the way he acts. But then, after a little while of walking around, Jiro stops in his tracks when he spots a 40-year-old DIY candy kit on display, valued at over 30 million yen. Something about it gets Jiro talking naturally and with genuine personality, and he ends up having a surprisingly charming conversation with Mei all about the candy kit without even trying. Mei is impressed enough to award him 30 bonus points on the spot hot, and for the first time she feels a real sense of hope for what he might be capable of. A little while later, Mei draws Jiro's attention to a strange-looking man sitting on the floor nearby, fidgeting away to himself, and she asks Jiro what he makes of him. Jiro's first instinct is that the man must either be homeless or dealing with some kind of mental health issue. But then a group of tourists suddenly spot the man and immediately flock around him in excitement. Mei explains that the man is none other than Mr. Shiratori, one of the most celebrated and well-known young painters in the entire country. She uses him as a living example to show Jiro that people are generally drawn to others because of their unique talents and gifts. Mr. Shiratori might look and behave in a way that seems completely odd to a stranger, but his fans would not have him any other way because he has already won them over entirely through his extraordinary ability. Jiro takes that on board, but tells her he does not think he has anything like that going for him. Mei tells him that he is wrong about that. She brings up what happened back with the handler, where he cleared out an entire room full of dangerous men and got her out of there all on his own. She tells him she has absolutely no doubt that something like that is a genuine part of his charm. With that said, she tells him to forget about dating apps and matchmaking parties because she believes the best way for him to find a partner is by helping people. She suggests things like rescuing hostages, protecting important people, and letting girls notice him while he does good work. Jiro is surprised by this idea because he is a poison master and his usual job is to assassinate people. However, Mei explains that there is no rule that says he cannot also help others. Hearing this makes Jiro start to think about it seriously. Later that night, the guards notice that a valuable piece of artwork is missing. They quickly assume that Himekawa is responsible. The guards inform the ship's pilot, and he starts checking for any nearby boats that might have left the cruise ship. When he finds nothing, they conclude that Himekawa must still be somewhere on board. What they do not realize is that Himekawa is already far below sea level, moving toward land with her shark, Chomsky. She arrives near the shore and sees her teammates waving at her, so she believes she has escaped safely. Suddenly, a whirlpool forms and pulls her teammates in, catching her by surprise, and then a person in a white suit jumps down toward her. At the same time, Jiro and Mei are at a buffet. Jiro is now seriously thinking about the idea of saving people, so he asks Mei where he can find jobs like that. Mei shows him a website called Dark Nav, where different kinds of jobs are listed, including capturing criminals and stopping smugglers. She is surprised that Jiro has never heard of it before, and Jiro explains that he usually gets his work through brokers. Jiro spends some time looking through the website until he finds a rescue mission involving Himekawa. The report says that she has been captured by bandits who are demanding the return of artworks that law enforcement has taken in exchange for her release. Himekawa is known by many as a famous thief, but the truth is different. Wealthy and cruel collectors often steal art from people who cannot defend themselves, and Himekawa secretly returns those stolen pieces to their rightful owners. Because of this, she has loyal supporters. A fan club dedicated to her is the one that hired Jiro to rescue her. Mei is not at all surprised that Jiro is the only one who showed up for the job, since there would not be many people willing to take on something this high risk for such little pay, though she figures this might actually work in their favor, because with barely any competition around, it gives Jiro the perfect opportunity to step up and be her knight in shining armor. Jiro introduces himself as one of the poison masters, and the men who hired him are visibly stunned to find themselves in the presence of an actual poison master. Meanwhile, the kidnapper leans over to Himekawa and taunts her, telling her he has never come across anyone as beautiful as her before and asking her to switch sides and join him. But Himekawa refuses flat out, telling him that she only steals for causes she genuinely believes in and that her mission is to return every piece of artwork he has stolen back to the people it rightfully belongs to. One of the paintings he took belonged to a little girl whose mother had passed away, and Himekawa once made that little girl a personal promise that she was going to steal it back for her no matter what. The kidnapper gets irritated hearing all of this and calls Ushio over, who grabs her by the throat and dumps water over her without a second thought. Meanwhile, Jiro and Mei get the rescue mission underway and work their way through a mall. That is when they come around a corner and run straight into two guards armed with guns. But Jiro steps right in front of her and drops both guards with a single split kick before they can do anything. Mei starts to think she should just hang back and sit the rest of the mission out, but Jiro reaches down and helps her back up, telling her plainly that he needs her with him again, which is enough to give her the boost of confidence she needs to keep going. Meanwhile, Ushio continues to pour his ferrofluid over Himekawa, but the boss tells him to cut it out and go deal with the intruders who have just broken in. So Ushio heads off to take care of them. Back with Jiro and Mei as they continue pushing forward through the ship. Jiro starts quietly rehearsing the lines he plans to use on Himekawa when he finally gets to her. That is when they walk straight into another group of guards blocking their path, but Jiro handles all of them with ease using his martial arts, casually taking each one down while continuing to practice his pickup lines out loud with Mei in between strikes. They both then enter an elevator together and go down to the lower area. At the same time, the boss aims a gun at Himekawa. At first, she thinks he is going to kill her in a weak way, but then he changes and points the gun at the painting instead. He tells her to obey everything he says, or he will destroy the painting. Himekawa immediately realizes it is the same painting she promised to return to a small girl. She cannot allow it to be damaged, so she agrees to follow his orders without resistance. Then suddenly, the boss's arms are blown off by an unknown force, and he becomes extremely scared and starts panicking. After that, a strange being appears from the wall, moves into his body, and burns him alive from inside. However, this is not actually happening in reality. It is only a hallucination created because of the poison that Jiro had previously given him. Jiro then walks forward calmly and introduces himself to Himekawa. He tells her that he is the master who has come to rescue her. Himekawa is shocked that a master personally came to save her. She also quickly tells Jiro that she does not have enough money to pay him for this job, which catches him completely off guard because he did not plan what to say next after his introduction. Right after that, Mei enters the room and starts trying to remove the chains that are holding Himekawa, but suddenly, Ushio appears from behind and grabs Himekawa tightly, stopping her movement. In response to this, Jiro immediately injects himself with an augmentation serum that increases his physical abilities many times over his normal limit. He then rushes straight toward Ushio, but she suddenly disappears from sight and reappears somewhere else, leaving Himekawa behind in the middle of the confusion. Because of this, Jiro quickly throws Himekawa over toward Mei so she can keep her safe and out of danger. Ushio then attacks using water fists. The force of her attack is so strong that it breaks the floor beneath them and causes them both to fall and continue fighting on a lower level of the building. After that, Ushio quickly dashes toward Jiro again, but instead of continuing to attack immediately, she suddenly apologizes to him for not introducing herself properly earlier. She then offers him her business card. She already knows that Jiro is a poison master, and she asks him if he wants to settle the situation privately instead of fighting. Ushio explains that she is also a water master. She believes that if two masters fight seriously, the damage will be too large and will go far beyond what Jiro is being paid for this job. Because of that, she offers him 10 times the amount his client originally promised if he agrees to leave Himekawa and walk away from the mission completely. Meanwhile, Mei is watching everything happening, and she is completely confused about the situation. At that moment, Jiro's augmentation syringe rolls across the ground toward her. She notices that there is still some liquid left inside it and reaches out to take it, but Jiro suddenly yells at her not to touch it. Ushio sees this reaction and immediately understands that the substance is not a normal serum, but actually a very dangerous poison. Ushio then explains that masters inherit modified bloodlines that are connected to their special abilities. In the case of poison masters, their bloodline strengthens their body when exposed to a lethal dose of poison. However, Jiro explains that this is not the full truth. He adds that it is actually also a curse that forces poison masters to finish their target before their own body shuts down completely. Since Ushio is also a master, Jiro assumes she must also have a modified bloodline as well, even though her water control ability looks almost like magic to him. However, Ushio does not respond to this assumption. Instead, she asks Jiro once again whether he is willing to reach an agreement and settle things peacefully. When Jiro refuses again, Ushio immediately begins attacking him. At first, the fight is going in her favor, and she is clearly overpowering him, but Jiro quickly changes the situation by coating her glove with thermopoison, which causes it to explode suddenly. That small opening gives Jiro the chance he needs, and he follows up quickly with another attack that knocks Ushio to the ground. As Ushio slowly gets back up, she is shocked and confused about how Jiro managed to hit her 3 times in a row at exactly the same point with millimeter level precision. Jiro then speaks and says says that he is doing all of this for Hankawa. Even though they are strangers right now, he believes she might become very important to him in the future. Because of that, he is willing to risk his life completely on that possibility, even if it ends up killing him. That was the second episode. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.